Min-Jun Park pushed his cleaning cart down the empty hallway of Westbridge University's mathematics building. His footsteps echoed in the silence. It was 11 o'clock at night and everyone had gone home hours ago. This was his favorite time to work. No students rushing past him. No professors asking him to come back later. Just him, his mop, and the quiet rooms full of numbers and equations. He was 42 years old and had been cleaning this building for almost 15 years. Every night, the same routine. Empty the trash cans. Sweep the floors. Wipe down the desks. And always clean the whiteboards. But Min-Jun never cleaned a whiteboard without reading it first. Tonight, he entered room 301, Professor Catherine Walsh's classroom. The overhead lights hummed as he flipped the switch. The whiteboard covered the entire front wall and it was filled with numbers and symbols. Min-Jun set down his spray bottle and stood there, studying the equations like someone looking at a painting in a museum. Professor Walsh taught advanced calculus. She was famous across campus. Students said she was brilliant but tough. Min-Jun had never spoken to her, not really. Sometimes she said hello when she passed him in the hallway. That was all. He moved closer to the board and read through the equations. His eyes followed each line, each variable, each carefully drawn symbol. A small smile touched his lips. He understood it, all of it. The problem, the solution, even the small mistake in the third line that would confuse students tomorrow. Min-Jun picked up an eraser and began cleaning the board in smooth, careful strokes. The equations disappeared under his hand, but they stayed in his mind. He would think about them later during his break, solving them again just for the pleasure of it. People at the university saw him as just a janitor. They had no idea that he once studied mathematics at Seoul National University, one of the best schools in South Korea. They did not know that he had finished his master's degree with top grades. They did not know that he had been working on his PhD when everything fell apart. That was 20 years ago. His mother got sick. His father had already died. The medical bills piled up like snow in winter. Min-Jun was the oldest son. In his family, that meant something. It meant responsibility. It meant sacrifice. He left his studies and took any job he could find to send money home. When his mother died 2 years later, he was already in America, married with a baby daughter. His wife left when their daughter Soo-yeon was 3 years old. She said she did not sign up to be poor in a foreign country with a man who cleaned toilets. So Min-Jun raised Soo-yeon alone. Every decision he made was for her. The night shift paid more, so he worked nights. It meant he could see her off to school in the morning and be there when she got home in the afternoon. He slept while she was in class. It was not perfect, but it worked. Now Soo-yeon was 18 and in her first year at this same university. She got a scholarship, but it was not enough to cover everything. Min-Jun worked extra shifts when he could. His daughter was studying business, struggling with her required math class. He helped her with homework at their small kitchen table, careful not to explain things too well. She would ask questions. Questions he could not answer without revealing too much about his past. Min-Jun finished cleaning room 301 and moved on to the next classroom. His mind was still on the equations. That was how it always was. Mathematics lived in his head like a song that never stopped playing. While he mopped floors, he solved problems. While he emptied trash, he worked through theorems. The other janitors listened to music through headphones. Min-Jun listened to numbers. He pushed his cart to room 405, the graduate student study room. The whiteboard here had different handwriting, messier, more urgent. Someone had been working late on something difficult. Min-Jun read through their work, found where they got stuck, traced the error with his finger against the board. He wished he could write the answer, show them where they went wrong, but that would raise questions he could not handle. The cart squeaked as he rolled it to the faculty offices. Professor Walsh's office was at the end of the hall, door closed but not locked. Min-Jun knocked softly even though he knew no one was there. Old habit, respect. He went inside and turned on the light. Her office was neat, organized, full of books with titles he recognized. On her desk was a photo of a young woman in a graduation cap and gown, probably her daughter. Next to it, a coffee mug that said, "Math is my superpower." The small whiteboard on her wall had notes about next week's lectures. Min-Jun read them while he emptied her trash can. She was planning to introduce a new concept, something most students would find hard. He thought about the best way to explain it, how he would do it if he were the teacher, but he was not the teacher. He was the janitor. Min-jun cleaned the rest of the offices and returned to the main hallway. His shift was half over. He took his break in the janitor's closet on the first floor, a small room with a chair, a table, and a coffee maker that barely worked. He pulled out his lunch bag and his notebook. The notebook was old, worn, filled with hundreds of pages of mathematical work. He had dozens of these notebooks at home, stacked in his closet where Soo-yeon never looked. This was his secret life. This was who he really was, hidden between the covers of cheap spiral notebooks. He ate his sandwich with one hand and worked through a problem with the other. It was something he had seen on a board last week, an equation that looked interesting. His pencil moved quickly, finding the path through the numbers like walking a familiar road. 30 minutes later, his break ended. Min-jun put away his notebook and went back to work. He had 3 more floors to clean before his shift ended at 7 in the morning. When he reached the 3rd floor again, he noticed something different. Professor Walsh's classroom light was on, and the door was open. Had he forgotten to turn it off? Min-jun walked to the doorway and stopped. The whiteboard was no longer empty. Someone had written on it after he cleaned it. But that was impossible. He was the only person in the building. Min-jun stepped inside and looked at the board. The equations were different from what had been there before. This was something new, something harder. At the top, in Professor Walsh's handwriting, were the words, "Open problem, no known solution." His heart beat faster. An open problem. That meant no one had solved it yet. Not Professor Walsh, not her colleagues, maybe not anyone in the world. Min-jun read through the equation slowly. It was related to fluid dynamics, the way liquids move and flow. The problem was asking for a specific type of solution, one that had to meet several difficult conditions at the same time. He stood there for a long time, just reading, thinking, turning the problem over in his mind like a puzzle box. The cleaning cart waited behind him. He had work to do, but he could not stop looking at the board. Finally, he forced himself to leave. He finished cleaning the 3rd floor, then the 4th, then the 5th. But his mind never left room 301. The problem followed him through every room, every hallway, every staircase. When his shift ended and the sun started rising, Min-jun walked to the bus stop in the cold morning air. He was tired, but his brain was wide awake, working on the problem. On the bus ride home, he closed his eyes and saw equations. Numbers danced behind his eyelids. At home, Soo-yeon was getting ready for her morning class. She kissed his cheek and grabbed her backpack. "Morning, Dad, you look tired." "Always tired," he said, smiling. "That is the job. You should sleep more." "I will. Have a good day at school." She left and the apartment became quiet. Min-jun should have gone to bed. He had to sleep before Soo-yeon came home in the afternoon. But instead, he pulled out a fresh notebook and sat at the kitchen table. He wrote the problem at the top of the page, exactly as it appeared on Professor Walsh's board. Then he started working. His pencil moved across the paper, filling page after page with calculations. He tried one approach, hit a wall, started over. Tried another angle, got further, hit another wall. The sun climbed higher in the sky. He forgot about sleep. This was what he missed most about his old life. The challenge. The puzzle. The beautiful moment when a solution finally revealed itself, like watching the sun rise after a long night. But after 3 hours, he still had not found the answer. Min-jun finally admitted defeat and went to bed. He slept badly, dreaming of numbers that would not behave, equations that twisted away from solutions like fish in water. When he woke up that afternoon, the problem was still there, waiting for him in his mind. Min-jun could not stop thinking about the problem. All weekend it stayed in his head like an itch he could not scratch. Saturday afternoon, while Soo-yeon studied at the library, he filled another notebook with attempts at a solution. Sunday morning he barely tasted his coffee, too focused on the numbers swimming in his mind. Monday night, when he returned to work, he went straight to room 301. His hands shook slightly as he pushed open the door. The problem was still there on the board, untouched. Professor Walsh had left it up. Min-jun set down his cleaning supplies and stood in front of the whiteboard. He read through the equation again, looking for something he might have missed. The building was silent around him. Somewhere, a pipe clanked. Outside, a car alarm went off and then stopped. He pulled out his notebook and sat at one of the student desks. The chair was too small for him. made for someone younger, but he barely noticed. He worked through the problem again, trying a different method this time. An hour passed. Then 2. Min-jun forgot about his cleaning route. He forgot about the other rooms waiting for him. There was only the problem, and his growing certainty that he was getting close to something. At one point, his supervisor, Mr. Rodriguez, walked past the open door. "Park, you okay in there? You have 3 more floors to do." Min-jun jumped, almost dropping his pencil. "Yes, sorry. I was just checking if the board was dry." Mr. Rodriguez looked at him strangely. "It has been dry for days, man. Come on, you are behind schedule." "Right, sorry." Min-jun packed up his notebook and went back to work. But he kept thinking about the problem. While he mopped the hallways, he worked through equations in his head. While he emptied trash cans, he tested different approaches. Tuesday night, he brought 3 notebooks with him to work. During his break, he spread them across the small table in the janitor's closet and reviewed everything he had tried. There had to be something he was missing. Some small detail, some different way of looking at it. His phone buzzed. A text from Soo-yeon. "Dad, can you help me with my math homework tomorrow? I have a test Friday," he texted back. "Of course. Sleep well?" He stared at his phone for a moment. Soo-yeon was struggling with basic calculus. Meanwhile, he was trying to solve a problem that professional mathematicians could not figure out. The irony was almost funny. Almost Tuesday turned into Wednesday. Min-jun's shift was ending soon. The sky outside was getting lighter. He had 1 more floor to clean, but first he needed to check room 301 one more time. He entered the classroom and walked to the board. The problem stared back at him. He had been working on it for almost a week now. Maybe he should give up. Maybe it was too hard even for him. Maybe 20 years away from real mathematics had made him rusty. But something kept pulling him back. Some instinct that he was close, so close. Min-jun picked up his notebook and read through his latest attempt. He had gotten stuck on a particular step, a place where the equation seemed to split into 2 impossible directions. Every path he tried led to a contradiction. He sat down at the desk again. Just 15 more minutes, he told himself. Then he would finish his work and go home. The clock on the wall ticked. Outside, birds started singing. The morning light came through the windows, painting the floor gold. And then Min-jun saw it. It was not about choosing one path or the other. The solution was to recognize that both paths were part of the same answer. They were not contradictions. They were complementary. 2 sides of the same coin. His pencil flew across the paper. The solution unfolded in front of him like a flower opening. Each step led naturally to the next. The equation simplified, compressed, revealed its secrets. It was beautiful, elegant, simple in the way that only true solutions are simple. By the time he finished, his hand was cramping and his heart was pounding. Min-jun stared at the pages in front of him. 6 pages of work leading to an answer that fit on 3 lines. He had done it. He had actually done it. For a long moment, he just sat there, breathing hard, feeling a joy he had not felt in 20 years. This was what he used to live for. This feeling of discovery, of finding truth hidden in numbers. But now came a different problem. What should he do with this solution? He could just erase the board and go home like nothing had happened. No one would ever know. The problem would stay unsolved, and his life would continue as it was. Or he could leave his solution on the board. Min-jun stood up and walked to the whiteboard. He read Professor Walsh's original problem 1 more time, making sure he had not made a mistake. No. His solution was correct. He was certain, but if he wrote it on the board, there would be questions. Who wrote this? How did they solve it? Why did they not sign their name? His supervisor's warning came back to him. Stay focused on cleaning. Do not spend time staring at boards. Do your job. And there was another fear, deeper and harder to name. What if he was wrong? What if, after 20 years away from mathematics, he had made some basic error? What if he wrote his solution and everyone laughed at it? Min-jun looked at the clock. It was almost 7 in the morning. His shift was over. In 30 minutes, the day janitors would arrive. In 2 hours, Professor Walsh would come for her early morning class. He stood frozen, unable to decide. Then he thought of Soo-yeon. Last week she had come home upset because she failed a math quiz. She said she was stupid, that she would never understand it. Min-jun had told her, "You are not stupid. You just need to practice. And you need to be brave enough to try, even when you are scared. Be brave enough to try." His daughter's face was in his mind as he picked up a marker from the board ledge. His hand was shaking. He took a deep breath and started writing. He transferred his solution to the board in neat, careful handwriting. He wrote slowly, checking each step, making sure everything was clear and correct. His years of practice made his symbols perfect. No professor could have written it better. It took him 20 minutes to copy everything. When he finished, he stepped back and looked at what he had done. The solution filled half the board, neat lines of mathematical reasoning that led inevitably to the answer. At the bottom, he hesitated. Should he sign his name? No, that was too much, too scary. Instead, he wrote in small letters, "Night Maintenance Staff." Min-jun put the marker back on the ledge. His hands were still shaking. He had really done it. There was no taking it back now. He quickly gathered his cleaning supplies and left the room. He finished the last floor in record time, working fast, trying not to think about what he had just done. When his shift ended, he practically ran to the exit. On the bus ride home, he felt sick to his stomach. What had he been thinking? He should go back. He should erase it. He could call in sick, come back during his break, fix this before anyone saw it. But he was also excited, in a way he had not been excited in years. Someone would see his work. A real mathematician would look at his solution and know that it was good. At home, he could not sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, imagining what would happen when Professor Walsh saw the board. Would she be angry? Would she try to find who did it? Would she even notice? When Soo-yeon came home that afternoon, she found him sitting at the kitchen table looking exhausted. "Dad, are you okay? You look terrible." "I am fine. Just tired. Did something happen at work?" "No, nothing happened. But something had happened. Something that would change everything." That evening, before his shift started, Min-jun checked his phone. There was a news alert from the university website. His heart stopped. Mystery solved. Unknown mathematician solves decade-old problem. His hands went numb. He clicked on the article. Professor Catherine Walsh arrived at her classroom Wednesday morning to find that someone had written a complete solution to a famous unsolved problem on her whiteboard. The solution, which appears to be correct, was signed only Night Maintenance Staff. The mathematics department is now searching for the anonymous genius who may have solved a problem that has stumped experts for over 10 years. There was a photo of the whiteboard with his solution on it. Below that, a quote from Professor Walsh. "This is extraordinary work. Whoever wrote this has a deep understanding of advanced mathematics. We need to find this person." Min-jun put down his phone. His whole body felt cold. What had he done? He thought about not going to work. He could call in sick, hide, wait for this to blow over. But he needed the money, and missing work would look suspicious, so he went. He clocked in, got his cart, and started his route. Every noise made him jump. Every time someone walked past, he thought they were coming for him. When he reached the 3rd floor, there was a sign on the door of room 301. "Do not clean this board. Professor Walsh." Min-jun stood outside the room for a long time, looking at his solution through the doorway. Under the bright fluorescent lights, his handwriting looked strange to him, like something written by a different person, in a different life. A different janitor walked past, a woman named Ji-won who worked the East Wing. She stopped and looked at the board, then at Min-jun. "Did you hear about this?" she asked in Korean. They sometimes spoke their native language together, a small comfort in a foreign country. "Yes?" Min-jun said quietly. "It is amazing, is it not? Someone who cleans this building is a genius. They are looking for him, or her," Min-jun said. Ji-won smiled. "True, do you think they will find them?" The next morning, Min-jun sat in the break room with the other night janitors. Mr. Rodriguez had called everyone together before their shifts started. "You all heard about what happened in the math building?" Mr. Rodriguez held up his phone, showing the news article. Someone on the night staff wrote something important on a whiteboard. The university wants to know who did it. Min-jun kept his face blank. His coffee cup was warm in his hands. He focused on that warmth, used it to stay calm. "If anyone knows anything, please speak up," Mr. Rodriguez continued. "This person is not in trouble. The professors want to meet them. They are calling them a genius." The other janitors murmured to each other. Most of them seemed confused. Mathematics was not their world. They cleaned it, but they did not understand it. "It was not me," said Carlos, who cleaned the chemistry building. "I barely passed high school math." "Me neither," said another janitor. "I would not even know what those symbols mean." One by one, the janitors shook their heads. No one knew anything. Mr. Rodriguez looked at Min Jun. "Park, you clean that building every night. You see anything unusual?" Min Jun's heart hammered in his chest. "No, I just clean the boards like always." "You ever look at what is written on them?" "Sometimes, but I do not really understand it." The lie tasted bitter in his mouth. Mr. Rodriguez nodded slowly. "Okay. Well, if anyone remembers something, let me know. The university is serious about finding this person." The meeting ended. Min Jun went to start his shift, but his legs felt weak. He had lied to his supervisor. He had lied to everyone. That night, when he entered room 301, there were 3 professors standing around the whiteboard. Min Jun froze in the doorway. "Oh, sorry," one of them said. "We are just examining this solution. You can clean around us." "I can come back later," Min Jun said quietly. No, it is fine, we will move." The professors stepped aside, but they kept talking as Min Jun emptied the trash can. He tried not to listen, but he could not help it. "The approach is completely novel," one professor said. "I have never seen this method used for this type of problem." "The handwriting is very neat," said another. "Almost too neat, like someone who practices writing equations regularly." "Could it be a graduate student playing a prank?" the third one asked. "No graduate student could solve this, and why would they sign it night maintenance staff if it was a prank?" Min Jun wiped down the desks, moving slowly, keeping his head down. His hands were sweating. "We should check the security cameras," one professor said. "Already did. There are no cameras in this hallway, budget cuts last year. So we have no way to know who it was? Not unless they come forward." Min Jun finished cleaning and left quickly. His heart was racing. They were actively searching for him. This was getting serious. Over the next few days, the story grew bigger. Local news stations reported on it. The campus newspaper ran a front-page story. Students talked about it in the hallways. Everyone wanted to know who the mystery mathematician was. Professor Walsh put another note on the board. "To whoever wrote this solution, you have a gift. Please come forward. You will not be in trouble. I just want to talk to you. Professor C. Walsh." Min Jun read the note during his Thursday night shift. He stood there for a long time, alone in the empty classroom. Part of him wanted to reveal himself, to talk to Professor Walsh, to discuss mathematics with someone who would understand. But fear held him back. What if they did not believe him? What if they thought he cheated somehow, copied the solution from somewhere? He was just a janitor. Why would anyone believe he could solve problems that professors could not? And there was another fear, deeper and more painful. What if they looked at him with pity? Poor Min Jun, the janitor who could have been a mathematician. What a waste. What a sad story. He could not handle that. Better to stay invisible. Thursday night passed. Friday came. Min Jun called in sick, something he rarely did. He could not face going back to the building, seeing the professors searching for him, knowing he was lying every time he said he knew nothing. He spent Friday at home, helping Suyeon study for her math test. She was doing better, understanding more. He was proud of her even though she still struggled with concepts that were easy for him. "Dad, everyone at school is talking about the mystery mathematician," she said during a study break. "Is it not cool? Someone who works cleaning the buildings is actually a genius." "Very cool," Min Jun said. "I hope they find them. Can you imagine working as a janitor when you could be a professor? That must be hard." Min Jun looked at his daughter. She had no idea she was talking about him. He had kept his past so secret that even Suyeon did not know her father once studied advanced mathematics. "Maybe they are happy as a janitor," he said quietly. "Maybe. But still, they should get recognition for being so smart, right? Recognition is not everything." Suyeon looked at him curiously. "You sound like you are defending them." "I just think, maybe they have their reasons for staying quiet." That weekend, Min-jun barely slept. He kept thinking about Professor Walsh's note, about the search, about his solution still displayed on the whiteboard like evidence of a crime. On Saturday afternoon, he went for a walk to clear his head. He ended up near the university campus watching students come and go from the library. They looked so young, so full of possibilities. Once, he had been like them. His phone rang. It was Ji-won, the other Korean janitor. Min-jun, can we talk? About what? In person. There is a coffee shop near the campus. Can you meet me there? 20 minutes later, they sat across from each other in a small cafe. Ji-won ordered tea. Min-jun was too nervous to drink anything. I know it was you, Ji-won said quietly. Min-jun's blood went cold. What? The solution on the board. It was you. I do not know what you are talking about. Min-jun. Her voice was gentle but firm. I saw you. Last Tuesday night I was working late, finishing the East Wing. I walked past room 301. I saw you through the door, writing on the board. Min-jun felt like he could not breathe. Please do not tell anyone. I am not going to tell. But I want to know why you are hiding. He stared at his hands. You would not understand. Try me. I have my own secrets, Min-jun. We all do. So he told her. About Seoul National University. About his mother's illness. About leaving his PhD. About 20 years of cleaning floors while mathematics lived in his head like a prisoner in a cell. Ji-won listened to everything. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. I was a lawyer in Korea, she finally said. Did you know that? Min-jun looked up, surprised. No. Corporate law. I worked for one of the big firms in Seoul. Then my husband got sick. Cancer. We came to America for treatment. It did not work. He died, and I was left here with 2 children and debt I could not pay. My Korean law degree meant nothing here, so I cleaned toilets. I am sorry, Min-jun said. My point is, I understand. I understand shame. I understand feeling like you do not belong in the world you came from. But Min-jun, you solved something important. You should not hide from that. They will not believe me, I am just a janitor. You are a mathematician who works as a janitor. There is a difference. But what if I come forward and they laugh at me? What if they think I am lying? Then they are fools. But I do not think Professor Walsh is a fool. Have you read what she wrote? She is looking for you, she wants to help. Min-jun shook his head. I cannot. I have Soo-yeon to think about. If this goes wrong, if I lose my job, what if it does not go wrong? What if this changes your life? My life is fine the way it is. Ji-won looked at him sadly. Is it? You look tired, Min-jun. Not just body tired, soul tired. You have been hiding for 20 years. That is a long time to be invisible. They talked for another hour. Ji-won did not push him, but she made him promise to think about it. When they left the cafe, Min-jun felt more confused than ever. Sunday night he returned to work. The building felt different somehow, charged with tension. There were more people around than usual, professors working late, maybe hoping to catch the mystery mathematician. Min-jun avoided room 301 as long as he could, but eventually he had to clean it. When he entered, he saw that Professor Walsh had written a new problem on the board. Next to it was another note. To the night maintenance staff. Here is another problem. It is not as famous as the first one, but it is difficult. I have been working on it for 3 months. If you can solve it, please leave your solution. I promise you, whoever you are, you will be welcomed here. C. Walsh. Min-jun read the new problem. It was about wave equations, similar to the first one but more complex. He could see immediately that it was hard. Not impossible, but hard. He should walk away. He should clean the board and pretend he never saw it. Coming forward once was risky enough. Doing it again would be asking to get caught. But the problem was so interesting, and Professor Walsh's note was so kind. She was not trying to trick him. She genuinely wanted to meet him. Min-jun stood there for a long time, marker in hand, war raging in his mind. Finally, he made a decision. He would work on the problem, but he would not decide whether to write the solution until he found it. Maybe he would get stuck. Maybe the problem was too hard even for him. Then the decision would be made for him. He pulled out his notebook and started working. 2 hours later, he had the solution. It was beautiful. Elegant, using a technique that most people would not think of. Minjun stared at his notebook, then at the whiteboard, then back at his notebook. This was the moment. Write it and risk everything, or walk away and stay safe. He thought about Su-yan, about paying rent, about keeping his job. He thought about all the reasons to stay quiet. But he also thought about the last 20 years. About solving problems in his head while mopping floors. About notebooks hidden in closets. About pretending to be less than he was every single day. He was so tired of hiding. Minjun picked up the marker. This time his hand did not shake. He wrote his solution clearly, carefully, perfectly. At the bottom he added something new. Mathematics is for everyone, not just people in classrooms. Some of us love it from the outside, looking in through windows we cannot walk through. Then he signed it the same way. Night maintenance staff. He cleaned the room, gathered his supplies, and left. As he walked down the hallway, he felt lighter somehow, like he had set down a weight he had been carrying for a very long time. He did not know what would happen next. But for the first time in 20 years, he was not trying to be invisible. Professor Catherine Walsh arrived at her classroom Friday morning with coffee in one hand and her lecture notes in the other. She was thinking about the day ahead, about the tests she needed to write, about the office hours she had scheduled. Then she saw the whiteboard. The coffee cup slipped from her hand, splashing across the floor. She did not notice. She walked slowly toward the board, her eyes wide, reading every line of the solution. "Oh my God," she whispered. The solution was perfect, more than perfect. It was brilliant. The mystery mathematician had taken her 3-month struggle and solved it overnight. And the note at the bottom. Catherine read it twice, 3 times, feeling something tight in her chest. She pulled out her phone and called the department chair. "David, get to my classroom right now." They did it again. 10 minutes later, 5 professors crowded into room 301, all staring at the whiteboard in silence. David Chen, the department chair, was the first to speak. This is extraordinary." "Read the note," Catherine said, her voice shaking slightly. "Read what they wrote." David read it out loud. "Mathematics is for everyone, not just people in classrooms. Some of us love it from the outside, looking in through windows we cannot walk through." "Who is this person?" another professor asked. "And why are they hiding?" "I think I know why," Catherine said quietly. She was still staring at the board, at the neat handwriting, at the elegant solution. "I think they are afraid. Afraid we would not take them seriously. Afraid they do not belong here. But they do belong here. This work is publishable. This is genius-level mathematics. Wait, they do not know that. Or maybe they do, but they have spent so long being invisible that they do not know how to be seen." David took several photos of the board with his phone. "We need to find this person. This has gone beyond interesting. This is someone who could change our department, our research program. We cannot let them stay hidden. How do we find them without scaring them away?" Catherine asked. They spent an hour discussing options. Check employee records for anyone with a mathematics background. Interview every person who works night shifts. Offer a reward, but Catherine kept coming back to the note. "Looking in through windows we cannot walk through." This person felt shut out, excluded. Traditional searches might make them feel hunted. "I have an idea," Catherine said, "but it is risky." She explained her plan. The other professors listened, some nodding, some looking doubtful. "It might work," David said, "but if it does not, we might lose them forever." "I think we have to try," Catherine said. "I think this person needs to know they are wanted here, not as a curiosity or a mystery, as a colleague." That afternoon, Catherine wrote a long note on the board. She wrote about her own background, about growing up in rural Montana, about her mother who cleaned houses to pay for Catherine's education. She wrote about feeling like she did not belong in graduate school, surrounded by people from wealthy families who seemed to understand things she had to fight to learn. At the bottom, she wrote, "Whoever you are not looking through windows. You are already inside. You belong in this room as much as any of us, more maybe because you love mathematics for itself, not for career or prestige. Please come forward. Friday, 3 in the afternoon, this room." Just walk in. No questions, no judgment, just mathematics. Then she left the problem on the board and went home, not knowing if her message would work. Minjun saw the note Friday morning, right before his shift ended. He stood in front of the board for 20 minutes, reading Catherine's words over and over. She understood. Somehow she understood, but coming forward, that was different from writing solutions anonymously. That meant showing his face, giving his name, becoming real. At home, he could not sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about what Catherine had written. "You are already inside," was he? For 20 years he had felt like a ghost haunting the mathematics building, seeing but not seen, understanding but not understood. Friday afternoon, Soo-yeon found him sitting at the kitchen table staring at nothing. "Dad, what is wrong?" "You have been acting strange all week." "Nothing, just tired." "Is it about work?" Minjun looked at his daughter. She was so smart, so full of potential. What would she think if she knew her father was hiding who he really was? "Soo-yeon, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "If you found out someone you knew had a secret talent, something they were hiding because they were afraid, what would you want them to do?" Soo-yeon thought about it. "I guess I would want them to be honest. Hiding seems lonely, even if being honest was scary, especially then. The scary things are usually the important things." Minjun smiled sadly. His daughter was wiser than she knew. That evening, Minjun called Jiwon. "I am thinking about doing it," he said. Coming forward. "Good, when?" "There is a meeting. Tomorrow at 3. But I do not know if I can actually walk through that door." "Want me to come with you?" "You would do that?" "Minjun, I saw you cleaning boards for years and I never knew you were solving them in your head. Now I know, and I think you deserve to be seen for who you really are. What if they do not believe me? Then you show them your notebooks. You solve another problem right there in front of them. You prove it. What if I lose my job? What if you gain a life?" That night Minjun could not work. He told Mr. Rodriguez he was sick and went home. He spent the whole night writing. Not mathematics this time, but a letter. A letter explaining everything. His background, his choices, his 20 years of silence. If he was going to do this, he wanted to do it right. Friday morning arrived. Minjun woke early even though he had barely slept. He showered, put on his cleanest shirt, the one he usually saved for Soo-yeon's school events. He looked at himself in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. Soo-yeon was still asleep. He left her a note. "Gone to take care of something important. Will explain later. Love, Dad." He arrived at campus at 2 in the afternoon, 1 hour early. He could not stay home any longer, could not think any more thoughts. It was time to move. Minjun walked around the campus trying to calm his nerves. He saw students everywhere, laughing, talking, studying on the grass in the warm spring sun. They all looked like they belonged. Like they had a right to be there. Did he have that right? Even after 20 years away, even in a janitor's uniform? At 2:45, he walked toward the mathematics building. His legs felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. Each step was a struggle. He entered the building, climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. Walked down the familiar hallway, but now it felt strange, like he was seeing it for the first time. The door to room 301 was closed. Through the small window, he could see people inside. Lots of people. More than he expected. Minjun's courage almost broke. He could still turn around, go back to his regular life, stay invisible. But then he remembered Soo-yeon's words. The scary things are usually the important things. He took a deep breath and pushed open the door. The room went completely silent. At least 30 people were there. Professors, graduate students, some people with cameras and notebooks who looked like reporters. They all turned to stare at Minjun standing in the doorway in his janitor's uniform. Someone in the back laughed nervously. "I think he is here to clean." Minjun's face burned. This was a mistake. Huge mistake. He started to back out. But then Professor Walsh stood up from where she had been sitting at the front. She looked at him carefully, really looked at him, and something changed in her expression. "Wait," she said. Did you come because of my note?" Minjun could not speak. He just nodded. The room erupted in whispers. People looked at each other in confusion. The janitor? It could not be. This had to be a mistake. David Chen, the department chair, stood up. "I am sorry, but we are in the middle of something important. If you need to clean the room, can you come back later?"
He does not need to clean, Catherine said, still looking at Min-jun. Do you?
You came for a different reason. Min-jun found his voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. I am the person who wrote on your board. Silence. Complete total silence. You could have heard a pin drop. I do not believe this, someone muttered. It is not possible, said another voice. But Catherine walked toward him slowly, like she was afraid he might disappear. What is your name? Min-jun Park. I work night maintenance. I have been cleaning this building for 15 years. Can you prove it? David asked, not unkindly. Anyone could claim to be the mystery mathematician. Min-jun reached into his bag with shaking hands. He pulled out his notebooks, 3 of them, filled cover to cover with mathematical work. I have been working on problems for 20 years, he said, his voice getting stronger. Every night I see the questions on your boards, and I cannot help myself. I solve them. Catherine took one of the notebooks, opened it, started reading. Her eyes grew wide. She flipped pages, reading faster and faster. Then she looked up at Min-jun with something like wonder on her face. This is years of work. Advanced work. She turned to the room. This is real, but how? Someone asked. How does a janitor know this level of mathematics? Min-jun stood up straighter. He was tired of feeling ashamed. I studied at Seoul National University. I finished my master's degree in mathematics. I was working on my PhD when my life changed. I came to America. I raised my daughter alone, and I did the only job I could get. But I never stopped being a mathematician. Not in here. He touched his head. Or here. He touched his heart. Catherine was still holding his notebook. Mr. Park, would you be willing to explain your solution? The one you wrote last night? Right now? Right now. Min-jun looked at the room full of people staring at him. Some looked skeptical. Some looked curious. Some looked like they still thought this was a joke. But Professor Walsh believed him. He could see it in her eyes. Yes, he said. I can explain it. He walked to the front of the room, picked up a piece of chalk, and began to write. At first his hand shook. But as he worked through the proof, as he fell into the familiar rhythm of mathematics, the fear fell away. This was his language. This was his home. He explained each step clearly, answering questions, showing the logic behind his choices. His accent was strong, but his mathematics was stronger. The equations flowed from his chalk like water. When he finished, the room was quiet again. But this time it was a different kind of quiet. Respectful, amazed, that is. David Chen shook his head slowly. That is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. One by one, the professors started clapping. Then the graduate students joined in. The sound filled the room, and Min-jun stood there, chalk still in his hand. Unable to believe what was happening, he was not invisible anymore. The applause slowly faded, but Min-jun still stood at the front of the room, holding the chalk like it was the only solid thing in his world. He felt dizzy, unreal, like he might wake up any moment and find himself back in the janitor's closet. Catherine Walsh stepped forward. Mr. Park, what you just showed us, those 2 solutions alone are worthy of publication in major mathematics journals. But these notebooks, she held up the ones he had given her, these contain years of research. This is the work of a serious mathematician. Thank you, Min-jun said. The words felt too small for what he was feeling. David Chen joined them at the front. Mr. Park, I need to ask you something important. Did you study this problem ahead of time? Did you have help from anyone? Min-jun shook his head. No, I saw your problem on the board Tuesday night. I worked on it during my breaks at home after my shift. That is all, no help, just me and paper and pencil. And the first problem, the famous unsolved one, same thing. I saw it on Professor Walsh's board. It took me almost a week to solve it. I kept thinking about it while I worked. A professor in the back raised his hand. How did you learn to do mathematics at this level? In Korea at Seoul National University. I was studying for my PhD when I had to leave. That was 20 years ago, but I never stopped learning. I read papers when I could find them online. I worked through textbooks from the library. And every night I saw new problems on your boards. Why did you hide for so long? Someone asked. Min-jun looked down at his janitor's uniform. Because I am this. A janitor? Who would believe me? I thought if I revealed myself, people would laugh. Or think I was lying. Or feel sorry for me. I did not want any of those things. Catherine's voice was gentle. What changed your mind? I got tired. Tired of being invisible. And your note, what you wrote about your mother, about feeling like you did not belong. I understood that. Maybe too much. The room was quiet again. Then a young woman stood up in the back. Minjun recognized her immediately. His heart stopped. Dad? It was Suyeon. She pushed through the crowd toward him. Dad, is this real? This is you? You are the mystery mathematician everyone is talking about. Minjun could not speak. His daughter was not supposed to be here. She was supposed to be at the library studying. How did she... I saw the announcement, Suyeon said, tears in her eyes. About the meeting. I was curious, so I came. I never thought... Dad, why did you never tell me? Because... Minjun's voice broke. Because I did not want you to be disappointed. I wanted you to be proud of me, not sad about what I could have been. Disappointed? Dad, I am amazed. All those times you helped me with homework. You were pretending to struggle so I would not know how smart you are. I did not want you to feel bad.
About our life.
About what I do for work. Suyeon hugged him tightly. I have never been ashamed of you, never. You are the hardest working person I know. And now I find out you are also a genius. Dad, do you know how incredible that is? Minjun held his daughter, and for the first time in 20 years he let himself cry. Not from sadness, but from relief. From release. From the pure joy of finally being seen for who he really was. When they separated, Catherine handed Minjun a tissue. She was crying too, and so were several other people in the room. I am sorry, Minjun said, embarrassed. This is not very professional. This is completely professional, Catherine said firmly. You just revealed a huge part of yourself. You are allowed to feel emotions about that. David Chen cleared his throat. Mr. Park, I think we need to have a serious conversation about your future. Would you be willing to meet with me Monday morning? In my office? Fear flickered through Minjun's chest. Am I in trouble? Will I lose my job? No, nothing like that. I want to discuss opportunities, options, things that might be possible for you now. What kind of options? That is what we need to talk about. But I will say this. Someone with your talent should not be cleaning floors. No offense to your current work, but you could be doing so much more. I need my job. I have bills to pay, a daughter to support. I understand. We are not going to leave you without income. Just trust me, okay? Come talk to me Monday. Minjun nodded, still uncertain but also curious. What could possibly be possible for him now? The meeting broke up slowly. Professors came up to shake Minjun's hand, to look at his notebooks, to ask questions about his solutions. The reporters wanted interviews. Graduate students wanted to know how he approached problems. Ji-won appeared at his side, having slipped into the back of the room during the commotion. She smiled at him. You did it, she said in Korean. I am terrified, he replied in the same language. Good. That means it is real. As the crowd thinned, Catherine pulled Minjun aside. Can we talk? Just the two of us? They sat in the now empty classroom, Suyeon waiting outside to give them privacy. I want to tell you something, Catherine said. My mother cleaned houses. 5, sometimes 6 houses a day. She barely spoke English and people treated her like she was invisible. But she was smart, so smart. She just never got the chance to show it. I am sorry, Minjun said. Do not be sorry. I am telling you this because I see her in you. And I see what might have been possible for her if someone had noticed. If someone had given her a chance. Catherine leaned forward. Mr. Park, I do not know exactly what David has in mind, but I am going to be very clear with you. I want you as a colleague. Not out of pity. Not as a charity case. But because you are brilliant and you deserve to be here. I have no PhD, no recent publications. I am 42 years old. I have been away from serious mathematics for 20 years. And yet you solved 2 problems that stumped our entire department. Your notebooks show work that is current, sophisticated, and original. Age does not matter. Credentials matter less than you think. What matters is this. She tapped his notebook. This is real mathematics. Real research. That is what we care about. Minjun felt something inside him starting to hope, really hope, for the first time in decades. What would I have to do? First, we need to get your Seoul credentials officially recognized. That is paperwork, but it can be done. Second, you would need to finish your PhD. But given the work you have already done, that might be faster than you think. Third, you start fresh. New research, new publications, new career. I do not know if I can do this. You solved a problem in 1 week that has been unsolved for 10 years. You can do this. They talked for another hour. Catherine explained the process, the timeline, the possibilities. By the end, Minjun's head was spinning. When he left the building with Suyeon, the sun was setting. They walked across campus in silence for a while. "Dad, I need to tell you something," Suyeon said. "What is it?" "I chose business as my major because I thought I was not smart enough for other things. But watching you today, solving those problems, explaining things so clearly, I realize I have been scared. Just like you were scared. You are very smart, Suyeon. Maybe, but I think I want to study what I actually love, not what I think is safe." She looked at him. "Would you be mad if I changed my major to mathematics?" Minjun stopped walking. He looked at his daughter, seeing her clearly for the first time. She had his eyes, and maybe, just maybe, she had his mind too. "I would be proud," he said. So proud. That weekend felt like a dream. The story hit major news networks. "Janitor solves impossible math problem" became a headline across the country. Minjun's phone did not stop ringing. Reporters wanted interviews. His old university in Korea called to congratulate him. People he had not spoken to in 20 years suddenly reached out. It was overwhelming and exhausting and wonderful all at once. Monday morning, Minjun put on his best clothes. Not his janitor uniform. He could not wear that to meet with the department chair. Not anymore. David Chen's office was large, filled with books and papers and awards. Minjun sat in a comfortable chair, his hands sweating. "Thank you for coming," David said. "I want to make you an offer. An offer. A position. Research fellow to start. We will work on getting your PhD completed, recognizing your previous work, getting you published. The salary is not huge, but it is better than what you are making now. And there are benefits. Health insurance, retirement, tuition assistance for Suyeon." Minjun could barely breathe. "You want to hire me? As a mathematician?" "Yes, the university president approved it this morning. We are fast-tracking the paperwork. You could start as soon as next month. But my job, my cleaning job, you would quit that job. This would be your new job. Full-time researcher and eventually teacher." Minjun thought about his cart, his mop, his cleaning supplies. He had used them for 15 years. They were familiar, safe. This new path was terrifying, but he had been terrified Friday when he walked through that classroom door. And look what happened. "Yes," he said. "I accept." David smiled and shook his hand. "Welcome to the faculty, Mr. Park. Or should I say, soon to be Dr. Park." The next few weeks were chaos. Good chaos, but chaos. Minjun worked his last shifts as a janitor. His coworkers threw him a party, proud and amazed. Mr. Rodriguez gave him a framed photo of his old cleaning cart. "So you remember where you came from?" Mr. Rodriguez said. "I could never forget." Minjun replied. He started his new position in early summer. They gave him an office, small but his own. A desk, a computer, a whiteboard that he could write on without fear of erasing it later. On his first day, he sat in his chair and stared at the nameplate on his door. Minjun Park Research Fellow. It did not feel real yet. Maybe it never would. Catherine became his mentor, helping him navigate the academic world he had left behind so long ago. She introduced him to other researchers, helped him prepare papers for publication, guided him through the PhD completion process. "You are a natural," she told him, after he gave his first presentation. "You explain things so clearly. You will be a wonderful teacher." "I am not sure about teaching," Minjun said. "What if the students do not respect me? I am older than most professors, and everyone knows I was a janitor." "They will respect you because you are brilliant, and because you have something most professors do not have. You remember what it is like to be outside looking in. That makes you a better teacher, not a worse one." 3 months after coming forward, Minjun defended his PhD dissertation. His committee included Catherine, David, and 2 experts from other universities who had followed his story. The defense was supposed to take 2 hours. It took 4, because everyone had so many questions about his work. But not hard questions, interested questions, excited questions. When they told him he passed, that he was officially Dr. Park now, Minjun cried again. He was getting better at letting himself feel things. The first time Minjun walked into a classroom as a professor instead of a janitor, he almost turned around and left. The students were already seated, chatting and laughing, waiting for class to begin. They looked so young, so confident, so like they belonged there. Did he belong there too? Even now, With his PhD completed and his nameplate on an office door, part of him still felt like an imposter, but then he remembered something Catherine had told him. You have cleaned this classroom 100 times. You know, every corner, every board, every desk. This room is yours more than it is anyone else's. Minjun walked to the front and wrote on the board, Dr. Minjun Park, Introduction to Advanced Calculus. A student raised her hand. Are you the janitor everyone was talking about last semester? The one who solved those impossible problems? Minjun turned to face the class. Yes, I used to clean this building. I worked night shifts for 15 years. I saw your equations on the boards and I could not help but solve them in my head while I mopped floors. The room was completely silent. I am telling you this, Minjun continued, because I want you to understand something important. Mathematics does not care who you are, where you come from, or what job you have. It does not care if you are rich or poor, young or old, professor or janitor. Mathematics only cares about truth. And truth is available to everyone willing to look for it. He paused, looking at each student. Some of you might be struggling. Some of you might feel like you do not belong here. I understand that feeling. I lived with it for 20 years. But I am here to tell you, if you love mathematics, if you are curious about it, if you are willing to work hard, then you belong. Never let anyone tell you different, not even yourself. A boy in the back row raised his hand. Sir, how did you keep studying while working as a janitor? I barely have time for homework and I am just a student. Minjun smiled. I studied during breaks. I worked on problems while cleaning, solving them in my head. I went to the library and read textbooks on my days off. It was not easy, but I loved it, so I found a way. That is what you do when you love something. But did it not make you sad? A girl asked. Being so smart but working that job? Sometimes, Minjun admitted. But I had my daughter to support. I had bills to pay. And honestly, I was afraid of trying to be a mathematician again and failing. It was easier to hide, safer. But safe is not always better. He turned back to the board and began the lesson. As he taught, explaining concepts and solving problems, he felt something he had not felt in 20 years. Complete. Like all the parts of himself finally fit together. After class, several students stayed behind to ask questions. Not about calculus, but about his story. About how he kept learning. About how he found courage to reveal himself. I almost did not do it, Minjun told them. I was terrified. But someone told me that the scary things are usually the important things. And they were right. Over the next months, Minjun settled into his new life. He taught 2 classes and spent the rest of his time on research. He and Catherine co-authored 3 papers based on the solutions he had written on her whiteboard. The papers were published in major journals and got attention from mathematicians around the world. Other universities offered him positions. Better pay, bigger offices, more prestige. But Minjun stayed at Westbridge. This was where he had been a janitor. This was where he had finally been seen. He owed this place his loyalty. The university changed too. Minjun's story made them realize they had been blind to the talent working right in front of them. They started a program to identify educated immigrants working in service positions, people with degrees and skills who could not use them because of language barriers or credential recognition problems. Jiwon was one of the first people to benefit. The university helped her get her Korean law degree recognized and found her a position in their legal office. She stopped cleaning toilets and started practicing law again. Thank you, she told Minjun over coffee one day. If you had not been brave, I would still be invisible too. You helped me find that courage, Minjun said. We helped each other. 5 other staff members discovered similar programs. A cook who had been an engineer in Venezuela. A security guard who had been a teacher in Syria. A parking attendant who had been a nurse in the Philippines. One by one, they found their way back to their professions, their true selves. The university created a scholarship fund for children of university staff. Soo-yeon was one of the first recipients. She had changed her major to mathematics and she was thriving. Minjun tutored her sometimes, no longer hiding his knowledge. She was good at math, really good. Maybe not as naturally talented as he was, but she worked hard and asked good questions. I think I want to be a teacher, she told him one evening while they studied together at the kitchen table, just like old times, like you. I want to help people understand that they can do hard things. Minjun looked at his daughter, pride swelling in his chest. You would be an excellent teacher. Did you know, Suyan said, that I am proud of you? You said that before. No, I mean always. Even when you were a janitor, I was proud. You worked so hard for me. You never complained. You always had time to help with homework even when you were exhausted. That meant more to me than any fancy job title. Min-jun felt tears in his eyes again. He was crying a lot these days. Catherine said that was good, that he had 20 years of emotions to catch up on. You are a good daughter, he said quietly. I have a good dad. 1 year after revealing himself, Min-jun was asked to give a talk at a conference for mathematics educators. He was nervous, but Catherine encouraged him. Tell your story, she said. People need to hear it, so he went. He stood in front of 500 math teachers and professors and told them about Seoul National University, about his mother's illness, about immigration and survival and raising a daughter alone, about cleaning whiteboards while solving the equations on them, about 20 years of hiding. I was invisible, he told the audience, not because I wanted to be, but because I thought I had to be. I thought there was no place for someone like me in mathematics. I was wrong. He talked about Catherine's kindness, about her note that had given him courage, about the terrifying moment of walking through that classroom door, about what changed when he stopped hiding. Now I teach students who look like I did 20 years ago, he said, students who doubt themselves, students who think they do not belong, and I tell them what I wish someone had told me. You belong if you choose to belong. You are a mathematician if you do mathematics. It is that simple and that hard. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. Afterward, dozens of teachers came up to talk to him. Several of them were crying. I've been teaching for 30 years, one older woman said, and I have never heard anything like that. Thank you for reminding me why I do this job. Min-jun kept his old janitor uniform. He hung it in his office in a frame on the wall. Students asked about it sometimes. That is where I came from, he would tell them. I keep it to remember that intelligence and worth are not determined by your job title. Some of the smartest people I knew worked alongside me, cleaning buildings. Never forget that. He also kept visiting the night cleaning crew. Once a month, he would come by after hours bringing coffee and snacks. He talked to them, learned their stories, helped them with their problems. Not math problems, though sometimes those too. Life problems, paperwork problems. My kid needs help with school problems. One night, he found a young man reading equations on a board in room 301, the same room where Min-jun's life had changed. The young man jumped when he saw Min-jun. Sorry, Professor Park, I clean this room and I like to look at the equations. I probably should not. What is your name? Min-jun asked. Hassan. I am from Syria. I was studying engineering there, but then the war. Do you understand these equations? Hassan looked embarrassed. Some of them. I try to work them out in my head while I clean. It makes me feel, I do not know, like I am still the person I used to be. Min-jun smiled. This felt familiar. Like looking in a mirror that showed the past. Hassan, I want you to have my card. My email is on there. When you see equations you are interested in, take pictures. Send them to me. We will work on them together. Really? You would do that? Really? And if you want, I can help you get your Syrian credentials recognized. It takes time, but it is possible. I know because I did it. Hassan's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Thank you so much. Min-jun watched the young man walk away, back to his cleaning cart, and felt a deep sense of peace. The cycle was continuing. The help he had received he could now give to others. 2 years after his revelation, Westbridge University held a special ceremony. They were naming the mathematics building after Min-jun. He tried to refuse. I am still here, he protested to David Chen. Buildings are named after people who are retired or dead. I am neither. Consider it motivation to stay alive and keep teaching, David said with a grin. Besides, the students voted. It was unanimous. They want future generations to know that anyone can be a mathematician. You are the symbol of that belief. The ceremony was on a bright September afternoon. The whole campus came out for it. Current students, former colleagues, people from his old cleaning crew, professors from other universities. Suyan stood in the front row, beaming with pride. Catherine gave a speech. 2 years ago, we had a mystery in this building. Someone was solving impossible problems and signing them night maintenance staff. We thought we were looking for a hidden genius. What we found was something more important. We found humility. We found dedication. We found someone who loved mathematics so much that he did it even when no one was watching, even when there was no reward. even when he had every reason to give up. She paused, looking directly at Min-jun. Dr. Park has taught us that intelligence and talent exist everywhere in everyone. We just have to be willing to see it. This building bears his name now, not because he solved a few problems, but because he reminds us every day why we do this work. Mathematics is for everyone. Truth is for everyone. Knowledge is for everyone. They unveiled the sign, Park Mathematics Building. Min-jun stood there, looking at his name carved in stone, and thought about the night he had first written his solution on Catherine's whiteboard. He had been so scared, so certain that revealing himself would end badly. He had been wrong. Revealing himself had not ended anything. It had begun everything. That evening, Min-jun walked through the building alone. It was late after hours when the cleaning crew worked. He saw Hassan mopping the hallway on the 3rd floor. "Hi, Professor Park," Hassan said, smiling. "I mean Professor Park, whose building this is now?" Min-jun laughed. "Please, just call me Min-jun. Did you see what I left on the board in room 301? Min-jun had not. He walked to the classroom and looked. On the board, Hassan had written a problem and solved it. The solution was not perfect, but it was close. Very close. At the bottom, he had written, "From Hassan, night maintenance staff. Thank you for teaching me that I do not have to hide." Min-jun stood there reading the solution, his heart full. This was his legacy. Not the papers he published or the classes he taught. Not even the building that bore his name. His real legacy was this: helping people see themselves as they truly were. Helping them step out of the shadows into the light. He picked up a marker and added a note below Hassan's solution. "Excellent work. Small correction on line 3, but the approach is perfect. Keep going. You belong here. Under Dr. Park." Then he turned off the lights and left, walking through the hallway of the building that now bore his name. His footsteps echoed, just like they had when he pushed a cleaning cart down this same hallway years ago. But everything was different now. He was not invisible anymore. He was not hiding anymore. He was exactly where he was supposed to be, doing exactly what he was meant to do. And somewhere in the building, on boards he could not see, other people were working on problems. Other people were learning. Other people were discovering that they too could be mathematicians. Mathematics belonged to everyone brave enough to try. That was what Min-jun had learned. That was what he would spend the rest of his life teaching. The scary things are usually the important things. His daughter had been right about that. And stepping through that classroom door 2 years ago, revealing himself to the world, had been the scariest and most important thing he had ever done. Min-jun walked out into the night ready for whatever came next. He was not afraid anymore. He was free, and that made all the difference.